I am the Queen of England. You must give me your lunch money.
Why?
Because, it will explode.
I don't know.
I'm the Queen of England. I know things.
Well, that makes sense. Here you go. Wait, Billy. Just because an authority says it doesn't make it true. Come to Camp Quest Northwest, where you'll learn critical thinking and science in a fun-filled week-long nature camp.
No!
Camp Quest Northwest can be found at campquestnorthwest.org. Donations and volunteers accepted. The devil is not real.
I'm melting!
This is Ask an Atheist, 253-584-1480, and we have invaded Jen McCrite's apartment, actually, for a quick interview. With me today is Ashley Paramore, the development director from the Secular Student Alliance, and I suppose YouTube phenom Thunderf00t. How are you guys doing today?
Hey, hey.
Woohoo! It's been a long night.
It has been a long night. It was a bit finale of Blues Brothers around Seattle for a while there. I was afraid I was going to run into 7 or 8 things to get places. But
police, we didn't have the police chase.
That's true. I could live without that. So one of the things we wanted to talk about today was the Secular Student Alliance. Why don't you tell us what the organization is about?
We are a national organization that provides funding to non-theistic student groups across the country. And by non-theistic, we mean atheist, agnostic, skeptic, humanist, bright, etc., Pastafarian,
right.
Whatever students want to self-identify as. We currently have 280 student groups across the country, most of which are at the college campuses and in the U.S., and we just launched a high school program this year, so we have about 23 high school groups.
Wow, fantastic. You wouldn't happen to know if Larkin High School in Elgin, Illinois was one of them?
Oh my gosh, I can look it up. I don't think we have any high school groups. Or actually, I know we have one at Lincoln High School that's in the Chicago suburbs.
Oh, really? Lincoln?
I met up with the student leader there probably a few months ago, but not the Larkin. Right offhand, no, I don't know.
No, I beat the pants off Lincoln in LNP debate once.
Well, if you go to secularstudents.org/affiliates, you can find out.
So you're the development director. What exactly does that entail in the context of Secular Student Alliance?
So I deal with a lot of memberships. I visit our supporters. How I actually met you, I will also visit local non-student groups and talk about Secular Student Alliance or give talks that pertain to the student community. So all the fun development-y things, fundraising, writing grants, which is really fun and mentally taxing.
Right.
That sort of thing. But I do, aside from all the boring admin-y type things, I also do work with students to teach them how to do fundraising on campus themselves as well. Being a small nonprofit, there's a lot of crossover and everybody does everything.
Sure, yeah. I've worked with community organizations here in Washington, and as you said in the talk you did today, that there's a ton of them out here, and there's sort of a bit of the Judean People's Front and the People's Front of Judea going on in the area. And
exactly.
So some of them are nonprofit, some of them aren't, and trying to get them to work together does require that really is a full-time job in many ways. So
yeah.
I definitely understand that. You gave a talk today about how secular groups outside of the academic realm could interface better with academia. Could you tell us about that a little bit?
What the talk was about was reaching out to student groups from a non-student group perspective. Because if anyone's been involved in a local secular community, you probably know that there's a big age gap from when students graduate and are in their, maybe mid-20s max, and then to when they get involved in their local and national communities, which is, we'll call it the 40s plus club.
Right.
Some communities are better than others. I will say that I've visited areas where they've got, strong parenting communities and are starting to fill that in. So a lot of times what happens with these off-campus groups, they really want to see more young faces. But they don't always understand what that really entails, because if you want to bring in 18-year-old freshmen from college, they're not going to act like your 50-year-old members and want to do the same things. Yeah. I mean, there's a big culture change between those two.
No, there's an enormous culture change. For example, there's Seattle Atheist who you spoke to today. Seattle Atheist is a new organization. It's kind of, not really compared to, say, the Secular Student Alliance or the Secular Student Union at UW, but locally, it's kind of the hep, the internet organization. And then there's a group that I sit on the board of directors for called Humanists of Washington. And the way we've kind of described the difference between Humanists of Washington and Seattle Atheists is a 25-year age difference. And so it's kind of this weird thing where you've got three different organizations. You've got the secular, or the secular student union, which is dealing with the college kids, and you've got sort of the new internet age adults that are in Seattle Atheist, and then everybody else is kind of in Humanists of Washington. And I always thought that was kind of weird. Why does there have to be that segregation, I suppose?
Well, I mean, let's face it, everybody has different needs. So high school students have different needs than undergrads, have different needs from grad students, have different needs from students that just graduated, have different needs than grandma and grandpa, et cetera, versus families. So, I mean, that's kind of one of the reasons why we see groups kind of separate out, because, like attracts like. But it is really important for groups to reach out to, student groups, or for students to reach out with non-student groups or high school students in order to grow and strengthen our community. Because let's face it, last I checked, there aren't really many atheist churches that I'm aware of. So
no, there definitely are not. Another thing you talked about is when I was on the board of Seattle Atheist for 2 years before I decided to focus on Ask an Atheist. And one of the biggest problems we had was trying to reach out to the secular student union at UW. We left them emails, we called them, we tried to, in some case, some of those of us who were new media friendly tried to interface with them in that direction as well. And then it just really didn't work. We really couldn't mesh. We really didn't work together. They got Richard Dawkins to come speak in the area a few years ago. We were invited, and they treated us very well, but it was very difficult for us to mesh. And then, after a while, the management changed, and now they're actually, these days, the secular student union is right there with us.
Yeah, and all groups wax and wane, and depending what leadership you have, I mean, some are going to be more friendly to working with off-campus groups than others. But one of the things that I was talking about, though, if people want to develop a relationship with a student group, especially a college group, it's going to take a lot more work from the off-campus perspective, usually, than it is from the students. And sometimes you do get some really good students that are willing to work and, great with outreach, but, college is like a full-time job for students, and, they've got other things that they're concerned with as well.
The way I decided to interface with it when I was trying to make decisions for the board, and I want to get your opinion on this, is if this is a good strategy or not, was not that we were necessarily going to try and get their attention and say, hey, work with us, work with us, work with us, work with us, but actually try to build a set of resources that would be available to the local campus organizations and just let them know that we were available, and just sort of make an invitation rather than, I guess, we should work together type demand. Is that a functional philosophy?
Well, it's great to be providing whatever resources that you can to student groups. And if you've got that, that's great. And I'd love to learn about, maybe a little bit later what you guys do. I think that's good, and you don't even necessarily, I know my talk was very focused to working with students. You don't even necessarily have to work with them or partner with them on an event, but if nothing else, it's very, very important that you build a relationship and let them know that you guys exist. Because more often than not, at least at the undergrad level, most students that graduate stay in the geographic area of their college.
Yeah.
So where are they going to go after they graduate? I mean, are they going to just quit? I mean, that's why we see that age gap, the 25 to 40, 50 somethings. You want to let them know that you're there, be warm and inviting and welcoming to the community, and do stuff that that students are going to like to do. So they'll be your future leaders and even donors.
If we want to find more information out, where would we go?
Secularstudents.org, and students is plural, because a lot of people tend to miss that. But if you have any questions, please feel free to email me. It's Ashley, ASHLEY, at secularstudents.org. And, I'd like to encourage everybody out there to consider becoming a member of Secular Student Alliance, because if any of you were college students, you know that we has no muns, so it boils down to, it really does, the lifeblood of our organization comes from individual donors and members.
Okay. Yeah, definitely, check that website out, and they could use your help. This is Ask an Atheist, 253-584-1480. We're going to go into a little break, and we will be back right after this.
Don't believe in God? Join the club. Humanists, atheists, and freethinkers have joined the American Humanist Association since 1941 to advocate for progressive values and equality for non-theists in America. Located in Washington, D.C., the American Humanist Association lobbies Congress on humanist issues, protects the rights of atheists in the courts, and supports more than 140 local chapters. Visit us at AmericanHumanist.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter to learn how you can join the club today.
Billy, I am a Nigerian prince, and I want to hide $1 bajillion in your locker.
Wow! $1 bajillion?
All I need is your lunch money.
What a great deal! Here you go! Wait, Billy. Just because you want to believe something doesn't mean you should. Come to Camp Quest Northwest, where you'll learn critical thinking and science in a fun-filled week-long nature camp.
No!
Camp Quest Northwest can be found at campquestnorthwest.org. Donations and volunteers accepted. The devil is not real.
Did you know that not a single psychic or paranormal event has ever been reproduced?
Have you ever wondered about the effectiveness of faith healing, Reiki, or sports bracelets?
Was 9/11 an inside job, or is that all just another unproven conspiracy theory?
Come check out the Seattle Skeptics, a group focused on lively debates and a critical examination of pseudoscience, alternative medicine, and anything else that hasn't held up to the light of the scientific method.
Seattle Skeptics was created for those who require a higher bar of evidence than gut feelings or blind belief.
We're not contrarians or cynics, we just want to see the evidence.
And so should you.
Check us out at seattleskeptics.org.
That's seattleskeptics.org.
If you enjoy the programming we create here on Ask an Atheist, please make a contribution with us. Your sponsorship helps keep our show on the air and improve the quality of our broadcasts. Donors get access to exclusive Ask an Atheist content. Don't make us beg. Please go to askanatheist.tv and contribute today.
So, Thunderfoot, what brings you to our little slice of Middle-earth, anyway?
I'm just kind of drifting around a bit. So I came over via TAM, the amazing meeting down in Vegas. And I've just been drifting up the Californian coast ever since. So
very cool.
I'm just hoping I stop before Alaska.
I'm told there's nice parts of Alaska.
But I've been told the flies are terrible.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Pick a man to the bone, you know?
Oh, geez, okay. I'd heard that about Florida, but not Alaska. Now I'm kind of scared.
Yeah, I've heard it gets bad when you get north.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I hear Palin's not governor anymore, right?
Yeah, did they pick somebody else kind of like Palin? I don't know. How does that work? They got their own way of doing government up there. I've never quite understood. You know, instead of taxes, they give them money. I don't know how that works.
But I mean, that to me almost cuts to the nub of everything here, is the fact that Palin is actually... you take a look at the candidates on... what do you got? Palin, Bachmann, and Perry. Perry, the man who thinks that prayer is going to solve Texas's problems. He prays for an end to the drought. They get the longest drought in however many years. But he doesn't believe that there's a science. He doesn't believe in global warming.
Right.
So
it's one of the weird things is we have sort of a policy on the show that we only talk about politics when it interfaces with atheism, skepticism, and separation of church and state. However, that is Perry.
And to an extent, you know, all of this cuts through all of whether you're red or blue. An idiot's an idiot.
Exactly.
And, you know, if you wanted 3 prize-winning idiots, you can't go much further down the idiot tree than Palin, Bachmann, and Perry. I mean, they are the know-nothing.
It's very weird about Bachmann because, you know, she says she's running for these offices because her husband is telling her to so she can continue to be an obedient wife. Who am I voting for in this case?
Yeah.
So, this is Ask an Atheist, 253-584-1480. Before we sort of wrap up, is you both clearly have YouTube channels, so you are Thunderfoot. I mean, you can go ahead and plug your channel, but that's kind of like the ABC network buying it out on... you know, a radio station in Hell, Michigan. But what is, so why don't you let us know where to go find it?
So, yeah, the channel on YouTube is Thunderfoot, which is, instead of O's, they're zeros. So.
Right. What are you up to on the channel these days?
Well, currently I'm on the road, so my office is about as big as your office there, which constitutes a laptop.
Right.
And so I've been improvising things on the road, but when I get back to civilization, I make this series called Why Do People Laugh at Creationists, which is basically pig-sticking creationists that are stupid enough to venture into the realm of science. A sort of modern-day version of, feeding the lions in the Colosseum, but in the scientific realm.
Sure.
So yeah, when I get back to civilization and have a real roof over my head, I'll be getting back to doing some of those. But in the meantime, I'm just sort of improvising stuff on the road. Like, hello, Ask an Atheist.
Hello.
Hello. Hello, Secular Student Alliance.
Hello.
So tell us about your YouTube channel and what you do when you hang out there.
So my channel is Healthy Addict, and I talk about whatever comes to mind, but usually within, the atheist or skeptic community realm. I don't have any particular series that I do. It's just pretty much whatever I feel like. Occasionally I'll try and interview people. Right now the cool thing has been to talk about sexism since the, elevator gate. So I've got one more follow-up I have to do on that, and then I quit. I quit so bad.
Yeah, I couldn't find a side that I could fully support or not support. I mean, there's obviously bad things going on, and you have to admit that. But for the whole part of it, I just I'm going to let this play out in the community.
I think it's actually done pretty well. And even after all that happened, the Amazing Meeting was right around the corner. Rebecca Watson and Richard Dawkins were both there.
Yeah.
And everything ran amazingly smoothly. Nobody talked about it. I guess Rebecca and Dawkins had
everyone talked about it. It was just not publicly.
Well, it was joking more than anything.
Exactly. It was the punchline. The word elevator must have been the sort of third most common used word at that conference.
Well, but my point is it wasn't drama like it was on the internet. Like, it played out really well, aside from the elevators lol, It pretty much stopped there. It didn't become a big dramatic fist fight type situation like it basically did online, where bloggers were screaming at each other.
The thing that got me is it was divisions, it was pointless divisions, and the way that I've always looked at it is the rationalist, secular, atheist community is sufficiently small. Mm-hmm. It has sufficiently diminished resources that if you're actually going to point your guns anywhere, so to speak, you don't put them at each other.
Yeah. I tend to agree. I mean, it's like on our tiny radio station that we're on. I mean, we're fighting just to maintain 1 hour of secular programming, where almost the entire rest of the day is religion. This is actually all this debate sort of brings me to something I want to ask about, since I have two people really into YouTube in front of me. Is we post our videos on YouTube, we post our episodes on YouTube, but we've been it's been real hot and cold with the YouTube community, and we're starting to kind of go, wonder if YouTube is really where we're supposed to be, because it's an echo chamber, and there's sort of a walled garden effect where we're trying to exist in mass media, and we're trying to be a part of the community. And like, for example, a few months ago we had our Rapture party, where when Harold Camping's timer ran out, we invaded an arcade for an evening, had some bands in, and we got an amazing. It was supposed to be a private party, but it very quickly became not a private party after the Reuters interview, and everybody was talking about it. We got national media exposure. Nothing happened on YouTube. It didn't translate. It didn't hit YouTube at all, even though we tried talking about it on YouTube. What is it? But I'm not really focused on YouTube. What's it like in the atheism community in YouTube, I suppose?
It's kind of just that. I mean, it's largely a community. I mean, people are networking with each other. People cross-promote all the time. And if you're not cross-promoting in order to get views, I mean, it's a matter of production. It's a matter of putting things out on a regular basis, branding. I mean, what do you want to add?
I mean, those are all great points to hit, but probably the most important one is one that you can't do anything about now, and that's essentially being there early. Mm-hmm. To the point where I fully admit that if I was starting out now and would put the same amount of effort that I had into the channel, it would be a fraction of the size that it is now, several
Right.
years later on. So just being there early actually counts for so much because it was a growing media. And, you know, some have dropped off along the way, and those that have remained have got more traffic to the point where it just market penetration now is almost impossible without either, like you were saying, I mean, putting in effort to production values and the such like helps a lot, and eventually it will get attention. It's just that the bar for the attention elsewhere is so high that almost the only way in is a grotesque amount of money, or to actually be helped up by someone who's already there.
And I've known people too who have also you can buy to be like a video embed, or you know, if somebody searches like if somebody keys in evolution or a keyword, you pay so much for keywords to actually basically get views and get promoted in that sidebar.
Right.
Just so you know, the sort of numbers you're talking at, it's about 10, can go to about 10 cents. Is the lowest sort of click value you're looking at.
Yeah.
So 10 cents a search, or
it's 10 cents.
I think
per
it's
hit.
click.
Oh, okay.
So, but I mean, you take a look at that, and you know how many. If you want views in the 10 million hits is $1 million. You know? I mean, it's and of those, how many are going to be recurrent whatevers? And this is on top of the costs of actually making the media in the first place, which is why I try to do what I can to help people, get a foothold now. And even I'm sort of losing ground against. There are just so many other people competing for the attention.
Well, and with YouTube too, I mean, most people don't come to YouTube for cerebral content. You know, they come to laugh, they come to watch music videos and auto-tune the news and, stuff like that. They're not necessarily coming to see people bicker. So I think that makes it even harder.
You take a look at the resources that things like the Mormon Church have. $1 million for them, nothing. And Scientology was the same way. Scientology poured grotesque amounts of money into getting hits, but you take a look at the traction that they get from that money, and I think they will lose interest real quick because
the religious ads are actually great for me because all the atheists want to click them and loll at them. So if the Scientologists and the Mormons want to put the money out to, for Christian Mingle or whatever and put that on my videos, you know what? They're going to go and they're going to sign up for a trial account.
So I'm curious now, your personal opinion, which one's going to get more hits? Christian Mingle or Muslim Mingle?
Ooh, probably Christian Mingle in our country, I think. Because Muslim Mingle, the Muslims are just about as bad as us, right?
I've heard this sort of... I've never checked it out myself, so this is pure potential urban myth, that they have this sort of thing with all the pictures of the girls all in veils, and it's like... I'm not so sure that's actually helping much.
It's like one of those Christmas advent calendars where you open up the door and I'm done with that metaphor right now. So we have a prominent YouTuber on our cast and crew, and every time we post a video with her, there's always some splash damage from people coming in and just having a fight about what Bionic Dance says on her channel, on our channel. And it does seem from our perspective at this point that YouTube is a bit of a dramocracy, if you will. I mean, it's controlled by drama. And is that okay? How do you guys deal with that on YouTube?
I think that's just the nature of YouTube. I mean, if you just read the comments, it's so, I don't want to say it's super different from what you see in the blogosphere, but I feel like we get more of it. Yeah. I don't know how you feel about that.
Well, to an extent, the bickering amongst the community, I find most of it's just noise. But
right.
I think it boils down to you have drama in every community. Because I've actually, when I was in college still, I had done some interfaith work, and when I was working with the Reverend. We would talk and stuff, and he'd tell me all this dirt, about Christian drama, and I'm like, wow, you know what? That sounds exactly like us.
Oh yeah.
I just think we're worse at managing it.
I've been told they get so catty in the pulpit. Well, I mean, to an extent they have to be. You know, why we're right and the people's front of Judea are so wrong.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, because they have green hats and we have yellow hats.
Standard demagoguery interface type stuff.
Continuing the train of thought that was lost, the virality to an extent is just what propagates well.
Mm-hmm.
And almost always, for things to propagate well, they need to be somewhat controversial. In other words, if they're clear-cut, simple answers, they rarely have that viral nature in the way that something is controversial does.
Exactly. And, putting video isn't, science is really awesome and, like, evolution is great versus
really, it is.
Oh, it's so cool.
Hooray.
But oh my god, Ray Comfort's an effing moron. I mean, I intentionally even though I think I'm pretty mild and not very controversial in much of what I do, I go out of my way to name my title something that people want to click. So, like, for the fundraiser, the title's book signed by atheist jerks, which is actually true. But,
I do have a stock Ray Comfort question. Have you seen True and False Conversion by Ray Comfort? It's a video he did.
No.
Okay. I thought Ray Comfort was just weird to atheists because that was his shtick, but then this is the video he did called True and False Conversion. It's specifically for other Christians, and it's the biggest no true Scotsman argument I've ever heard. It's, if you do this, you're not a Christian. If you hurt somebody, you're not a Christian. You're not a real Christian, blah, blah, blah.
He's good like that. So he had another one which was, you've got to circumnavigate the mind and go straight for the conscience. And it's like, did he just say that we shouldn't present an argument with any intellectual content? This is your best shot at promoting Christianity?
Yeah. Well, probably.
Put it on a video, sell it for $20.
Thank you, Ashley. Thank you, Thunderfoot. And
thank you.
This is Ask an Atheist. And that was my interview with Ashley Paramore, Development Director of the Secular Student Alliance and internet sensation Thunderfoot, back in October. This is Ask an Atheist, 253-584-1480. We're going to go into another break, and when we come back, we're going to answer some of your emails.
Billy, I am the Queen of England. You must give me your lunch money.
Why?
Because it will explode.
I don't know.
I'm the Queen of England. I know things.
Well, that makes sense. Here you go. Wait, Billy. Just because an authority says it doesn't make it true. Come to Camp Quest Northwest, where you'll learn critical thinking and science in a fun-filled week-long nature camp.
No!
Camp Quest Northwest can be found at campquestnorthwest.org. Donations and volunteers accepted. The devil is not real.
I'm melting!
Secular humanism is a non-theistic view of the universe built on a foundation of reason, science, and democracy. Humanists support intellectual freedom and critical thinking, and we hold that human beings are autonomous centers of moral development. The Humanists of Washington is the oldest humanist organization in the state and offers a community of free thinkers who educate the public and celebrate life. For information on how you can be a part of the humanist activities in the Puget Sound area, become a member of the Humanists of Washington today. Visit humanistofwashington.org.
Sigmund Freud said the voice of the intellect is a soft one, but it does not rest until it has gained a hearing. Whether you're at a point in life where you are questioning your beliefs, or if you've always been an atheist or agnostic, the Auburn Free Thought Society is a place where your own voice of intellect will be heard. You'll interact with like-minded people, engage in intellectual conversation, and share your experiences with others in the Auburn, Washington area. At Auburn Free Thought Society, we encourage critical thought and reason. For details, find us on Facebook and on meetup.com. Auburn Free Thought Society. Have real discussion and share real ideas freely.
You can advertise on Ask an Atheist on the radio, on our website, and in our podcast. People just like you who have the same interests are listening right now, just like you are, and thousands will download this podcast and listen to it later. If you have a product, service, or idea to sell, people here in the Pacific Northwest and people around the world, thousands will hear your message. Let us help you sell your product, service, or idea. Contact us at advertising@askanatheist.tv. That's advertising@askanatheist.tv.
And our interview guests have been whisked away back to their homes magically. They were here and now they're gone.
Into the fog of time.
Back in time and space.
This is Ask an Atheist, 253-584-1480, and with me in the studio today again is Mike. How you doing?
Yeah.
And Becky.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Mike's going to babble, and Sam's going to babble back.
I was speaking in tongues. You don't know that language.
Suddenly I'm Christian.
I'm going to continue speaking in English
go
for the rest of our show today. So, Sam, I could speak in Spanish and continue to host Ask an Atheist en Español. But before we get to some of our emails that you said we were going to get to, I think we should dive right into our favorite segment, Scripture Says What? Because we've got an awesome piece of scripture today from the wonderfully archaic and ancient religion of Zoroastrianism.
Yeah, this is the really fun bit, is that a lot of people aren't familiar with Zoroastrianism.
Well, my only familiarity with Zoroastrianism is in Zion National Park and Grand Canyon Park. Some of the formations are named after Zoroastrian sort of gods and figureheads, and I don't know. That was my first sort of introduction to it.
I am the least knowledgeable about Zoroastrianism in the room then. So why don't you fill us in?
Well, I'm not no expert by any means, but I had to do a Google search. Just from the scripture bit that we have today, it's a bit like reading A Clockwork Orange, where there's all these words, you're like, okay, I have no idea what that means, and I have to Google it. So I got a lot of parentheticals in this one. But it's, instead of being a monotheism in the way that you see Christianity, Islam, Judaism,
right?
It's, I guess you could call it a bitheism, duotheism. I'm not really sure how I'm supposed to conjugate that.
It probably has one of those weird Greek-sourced names. But the way you were talking about it, it does seem sort of like the source of the Gnostic demiurge, sort of the creator deity.
Yeah, that basically what you have is, instead of one god, you have two. One is good, one is evil. And they're in a constant war for the souls of everyone in the universe and everything in it. And it's a bit interesting because I don't think it has the same intellectual problems that a lot of the monotheisms does, about the questions about where does evil come from,
right?
Why does God allow evil to exist? In this case, when the bad guy, the devil character, is just as powerful, then you don't have that same problem. Why is there evil in the world? Because that guy's really mean and he's doing mean things.
Well, I'm hearing some Zoroastrian apologetics from Mike here.
Oh, no, I have the same attitude. It's not a question of Zoroastrianism being good. It still has the same truth quality.
Well, we have said before that while we're not religious, we actually kind of like watching religion, because it's interesting stuff. What people believe and why is interesting to me, so it's worth talking about.
Yeah, I see the same thing about Greek and Egyptian mythology as well, is that you don't have that same problem. Why is it that Odysseus has so many bad things happen to him? Because Poseidon is a jerk. I mean, that's the only answer. You don't have to come up with these reasons why Poseidon is good and just. He's just a jerk, and this is a thing that Zoroastrianism too. It's just like, okay, there's a bad god. So
what's today's scripture piece about?
This one comes from their holy book, the Vendidad. There's a lot of D's in that one. It comes from the chapter called Vergard 17, 1 through 3. It reads as such. Zarathustra, that's their version of the prophet, whether Moses or Muhammad, asked Ahura Mazda, that's their god, O Ahura Mazda, most beneficent spirit, maker of the material world, thou holy one, what is the most deadly deed whereby a man offers up a sacrifice to the Devas? Devas, by the way, are demons.
Okay.
Ahura Mazda answered, it is when a man here below, combing his hair or shaving it off or paring off his nails, drops them into a hole or crack.
Well, what are you supposed to do with your fingernail and beard clippings?
I think you're not supposed to let them hit the ground. It's like an American flag. I think you're supposed to burn them or something.
Okay.
I don't know.
So what happens?
Oh, but then by this transgression of the rights, Devas, that's demons again, are produced in the earth. This transgression of the rights, those Kavastras, that's noxious creatures, are produced in the earth, which men call lice, which eat up the corn in the cornfield and the clothes in the wardrobe. So
wait. Lice are the things that eat corn and clothes. So
this is where the apologetics end, is right here.
Yeah.
so is lice sort of an overarching term for silverfish or moth larvae or locusts, or what is it?
I don't think they use the Linnaean classification. I think they just have one category, and it's just called bugs.
Okay.
And I think all bugs are sort of the same, but their general idea is that if you drop you cut off your fingernails, you trim your toenails, fingernails, whatever, or your hair, and you drop them in a crack in the earth, they're going to turn into bugs and come back and eat up your clothes.
I think I saw this in a Japanese cartoon, actually.
There were tentacles involved, I believe.
Yeah, and then there was some acts that I would not care to describe on the radio.
I thought I saw it in an X-Files episode. I'm not sure.
But I can tell you from a scientific standpoint, this is not where lice come from.
Yeah. So that's an interesting one, I think. And if you're interested in telling us about what scriptures are interesting and why you think they're funny, go ahead and email us at askanatheist.tv, click the shiny red button on our webpage, and let us know. And as you've noticed today, non-biblical scriptures get priority because we get, for every one non-biblical scripture we get like 15 or 16 biblical.
A lot of people like looking through the Bible and submitting funny things there.
Well, it is pretty crazy.
I think it's the one we're most familiar with, or most of our listeners are most familiar with.
We do have, before we get into the emails again, we also have a couple of announcements. The first one is we're not doing a post show today, aren't we?
We're not. Today we actually invite you and encourage you to join all of us at the 2100 building in Seattle. The Northwest Free Thought Coalition is having our annual solstice potluck in honor of our holiday season. It's hosted by Humanists of Washington, and it's at the 2100 building at 2100 24th Avenue South in Seattle, Washington. Bring a dish, bring your own bottle to enjoy, and let's see. We'd love to see you there. We're starting up at about 6 o'clock, and we'll be there till 8:30. So please do join us up in Seattle.
It should be a fun time.
Yeah, we've gone now, I guess, 4 years or 3 years in a row.
Yeah.
It's always awesome. And Sam, I think there's something funny happening also during this month of December.
There is something funny. That would be December 29th at the Jewel Box Theater in Seattle. And again, that's up in Seattle, not here in Tacoma. You're going to have a night of comedy in support of the show you're listening to right now, Ask an Atheist. We'll have several local comedians. We have friend of the show co-creator and nationally touring comedian Jeremy Whitman, and Kermit Apio, whose name I believe I'm now spelling or pronouncing correctly. And then one act to be announced. Again, that's going to be at the Jewel Box Theater in Seattle on December 29th at 8 p.m., and it'll be $20 at the door.
I'm excited. Every time we have some atheist-oriented comedy or some comedy event where we have atheists in the audience, it always turns out to be an awesome time.
Yeah, and I've noticed the comics really like working with our crowd.
I remember Brad Upton actually said from the microphone that he normally has to explain some of the jokes that we just got. It's sort of we're kind of the training wheel audience. It's like, wow, this is way easier. This is like playing bumper bowling with comedy.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. It was a great evening. And those who support the Ask an Atheist show on for our fundraising events I've gotten a copy of our last comedy event, which was almost exactly a year ago now. So,
but if you can't make it to Seattle to actually come to this event, you still want to help us out with our show, we're happy to take a contribution. Go to our website, askanatheist.tv. There's a yellow button on the left side of the screen. Click it, and we'd be happy to take money from you.
Indeed. We're also happy to take your questions, and today we're going to be taking some of your questions and feedback. If you'd like to call us and ask your question live, the number is 253-584-1480. Let's go to an email from Mitchell. Mitchell's from Indianapolis.
Now I want to sing the Mitchell song, but I don't want to insult Mitchell. Mitchell, you're cool.
Mitchell has a really neat question.
Mitchell!
Thank you, guys. Mitchell asks, would the Ask an Atheist crew support an atheist or non-theistic presidential candidate?
Well,
Maybe.
Mitchell.
Stop making fun of Mitchell.
Yeah, this is a tough question. One is, it's like saying, would you ever vote for a left-handed president? The answer is, well, it depends.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Again, there is a wide range of political opinion in our community. I mean, we all have a tendency to be fairly, socially tolerant, but economically, we are all over the board.
If I could sum it up in sort of a blith joke and then have you follow up with it, for me, I would say I would vote for an atheist, but he's an atheist and also believes that we need a homeland for white Europeans. Not going to vote for him.
Yeah, I won't vote for somebody for just one reason, like, oh, I like their position on just this one thing. I won't vote for them just because there's a lot of other deal breakers, just like the one Sam mentioned. There are a lot of reasons I won't vote for somebody.
You're in favor of good public transportation, right, Mike?
Yeah, but I'm not going to vote for the guy with good transportation policies, but also who wants to commit genocide.
And he did make the trains run on time.
So, yeah, it's one of those things, and we're a show that Sam and I have had these long conversations about how we're going to handle politics on our show.
Yeah, I won't lie to you guys. We talk about, off the air, we talk about politics a lot.
Sam and I have both volunteered on campaigns in the past. We're both very opinionated. We have a lot of things to say about just about every presidential candidate running. But this show is not the venue for that. We've decided that, do we really need another political talk show on the air? That atheism, skeptical inquiry, the separation of church and state, these things are not well represented. And the minute we start arguing about healthcare or transportation or a lot of other things, we don't use our airtime talking about stuff that really gets neglected in these sorts of conversations from a point of view that we have. There are people already on TV and the radio who already have our opinion on all of these issues. I don't need to be represented.
Yeah, I mean, I would be excited if there was an atheist candidate that was getting national attention and was polling well nationally. To me, that would be a groundbreaking moment for the atheism movement. That doesn't necessarily mean I would support him if he also believes in a bunch of stuff that I don't otherwise. Atheism is a one-note thing, and there's a whole lot of other stuff to politics.
Now, it's something that often gets asked of women. Before we had prominent female candidates running pretty regularly for political office, and that is, would you vote for a woman candidate for president? And I say, well, it really depends what she stands for. And I think that in the last sort of 8 years or so, we've seen that with candidates as varied as Hillary Clinton and Sarah Palin and Michelle Bachmann.
Yeah.
So really, Mitchell, what is the answer to your question? Ask an atheist crew might vote for an atheist candidate or support an atheist candidate. We might not. It really depends on all the other things that are part of the package. So
sorry to dodge like that, but
at the same time, even if we have that candidate that we all really love privately, we're not going to endorse them on the show.
Yeah.
We just don't do that.
So we're going to move now to Dave from Texas. Dave has got some questions about moral questions beyond our understanding. And we love questions. We as skeptics love questions that are beyond our understanding. I mean, that's why they're questions. Otherwise, it would be called answers.
Yeah, in my case, it's not particularly hard.
Sam lies. But anyway, Dave writes to us saying that he's a practicing Catholic in Texas and he's trying to learn more about other faiths. Well, welcome to the show. I stumbled across your show and have been really enjoying it. It's my first real education into atheism. Dave, there's lots of different sources out there on the internet and live for atheism, so check them out. Don't just listen to us. Get a whole world view.
But continue listening to us, please.
Yes, certainly. We always appreciate your listenership. Dave writes, I want to learn more about what atheists believe and how they view the world. How do atheists make decisions about moral issues that are beyond their understanding? Now, he goes on to say, by this I'm referring to specific medial or scientific issues that are so complex that most people, myself included, don't know enough about the subject to make a rational decision. Examples could include human cloning, genetic testing, stem cell research, surrogate mothers, etc., as well as future issues we can't even begin to imagine. Dave says, as a Catholic, the Church serves as my moral compass for these examples because within the Church, there are teams of people who dedicate their lives to studying both religion and science to answer these questions. And a seminarian in his church recently completed a double doctorate in theology and biology and will be doing this kind of work. Dave says that the Church offers this educated answer, backing up with reasoning based not just in the Bible, but also in historic tradition and simple logic. But without this foundation, how do atheists make complicated moral decisions? Sam, Mike, what do you take away from this?
Well, I do want to challenge one thing he said, and this is something that's very near and dear to me as fans of Ask an Atheist know, is future issues that we can't even begin to imagine. To be honest with you, that's one of the main reasons I'm such a fan of science fiction, is that in the case, it gives us a chance, especially social science fiction and stuff like that, it gives us a chance to imagine these things and to think about the kind of moral problems that we're going to have in the future. Personally, he says there's a lot of things, genetic testing, stem cell research, surrogate mothers, stuff that we don't have the research for.
I don't think surrogate mothers, I never knew that it was a difficult issue. At what point is this controversial?
There are some moral quandaries within the Catholic Church, but for me...
Within the Catholic Church.
But in my case... Don't just stay ignorant and just don't throw your hands in the air and say, this is beyond me, I don't know. This is a great opportunity to educate yourself.
This is the thing that I take an issue with. Dave, I want to say thank you for coming to us in a measured and welcoming way, but I'm going to have to kind of call some of this out, because what I see you doing is appealing to authority here. One is, I don't think there are questions that are so complex that they're beyond someone's understanding. I think that on a level that's a choice.
Right.
That you have to look into something. That ignorance, that is something that you can solve by learning about a topic and not just passing it off. And especially an organization like the Catholic Church, an organization that when it goes to some of these moral questions gets it dead wrong,
right?
Both scientifically and morally. This is an organization that has outright lied about the effectiveness of condoms in a place like sub-Saharan Africa, where people are going to die of AIDS because the Pope has told them that condoms actually make them more susceptible to be infected with HIV. That's a lie.
I am hesitant to place all of that at Dave's door, though.
Not at Dave's door, but I'm saying he's saying the church.
Yeah, but he's a Catholic. Yeah, of course. What?
There's one thing that Dave says that I just want to sort of bring out, and it says, within the church there are teams of people who dedicate their lives to studying religion and science to answer these questions. Well, you know what? Outside the church there are people that dedicate their lives to answering these kinds of questions, and that is not necessarily an appeal to authority. Nobody who's a scientist wants to hide that information and be the final word on something.
And this is where the intersection of what you're saying and what all three of us are saying is that he's taking, if I may borrow some terminology from programming, he's taking the fact that we're ignorant on these topics as a static declaration. It's we're ignorant on these topics, and that's not something we can change. And that's something that I think the Catholic Church likes to promulgate. They like to have that out there, is that you're not as scholarly on these issues as we are, so take what we say on faith. We believe it's a variable. If you don't have that knowledge, you can go out and get it and make those decisions for yourself. And that is how we as atheists make those moral decisions, is we look at a situation, we think about a situation, and we make our own determinations. And for me, the guide for my moral decisions is always do the most good, cause the least harm. It's really simple.
It's a simple utilitarian principle, and I guess that's the thing, too. And Sam, what you say is absolutely right, which is that unexplained is not the same as inexplicable, and that's something that I think that you seem to be saying in this, Dave, and I think this is the number one correction I'd made, is just because human beings don't understand something now, and this has been the case throughout the history of the human race from the very beginning, because there was a time we didn't understand why it rains, we didn't understand why people got sick.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean we'll never understand that, because there's so many things we know now that our ancestors never knew. But it doesn't mean that the people who come after us won't know this and understand this. And I am seeing him kind of hand this off to an authority, because I don't see him going, how can I learn this sort of stuff? And yeah, on some level, it's not that I take a scientist as an authority figure, it's that I trust the process because I understand the process.
Right.
And that I also know that there isn't this hierarchy of leadership that vetoes somebody else out. Mm-hmm. That somebody who has a really, really mind-blowing discovery is going to make its way like wildfire through the scientific community, and it's going to have to run the gauntlet of other people dotting the I's, checking the T's, making sure that everything's in place. And really, really famous, popular scientists like Albert Einstein have been proven wrong about things before.
Right. Dave, I hope this answer gets to you, and I would really appreciate a follow-up. I'd like to see what you think about all of this.
Yeah, so certainly if you'd love to give us a call or email us back, you can go to askanatheist.tv and click our button, our feedback button. And if you'd like to give us a call, our phone number live is 253-584-1480. Let's go now to Ken, who is not a Catholic. Ken says, Ken's from Montreal, Quebec, and he says, I am an atheist, and even go as far as to say that I am an anti-theist. I do find, however, that when I lose a loved one or a dearly loved pet, I have a very hard time. Ken, I think that just about everyone can relate to that, not independent of one's belief or religious preference. Ken continues, when I had a precious pet that passed away a few years ago, I found comfort in the, quote, Rainbow Bridge poem and imagined him happy and in a heavenly place. I have not lost anyone since then. Although I don't think I ever really believed in a heaven or God, I would sort of, quote, pretend that I did to help me through the difficult situation. Now that I have acknowledged to myself and to others that I am indeed an atheist, I'm not sure how I will be able to cope when I'm in the same situation in the future. As fellow atheists, I'm hoping you can tell me how you guys deal with the grief of losing someone very close to you.
Not very well.
Yeah, I think one of my objections to the way religion handles this question and a lot of others is that it's honestly a complicated thing, and there's no real easy answer. It's something that will get easy on time, but we can't offer you the pat answer that, oh, he's in a happy place, and don't worry if you forgot to say that you love this person, or that there are things that you didn't say, like, I'm sorry, or I forgive you. You'll get a chance at a later date to be able to see that person, and you'll be able to have all the time in the world to set everything straight. I can't tell you that. And in the end, I don't think that the way to deal with the loss of a loved one is to pretend that they're not really dead. They're just in a different place.
Yeah.
I think that pain just gets easier over time.
In my case, for a few friends I've lost, the one I was able to take solace in the fact that their suffering had ended. We're talking about people who've had terminal diseases and stuff like that, and they were just suffering really badly until the end. And so on some level, they're not suffering anymore. They also don't exist anymore. They're dead. Their information is gone. But And I'll be honest with you, this is a topic that I've been wanting to do as an episode of Ask an Atheist for a very long time, and I'm having real difficulty putting it together just because some people are hesitant to talk about it. To me, Ask an Atheist is about showing the atheist movement, warts and all, and I think one of the things that, especially among the new atheist visibility movement, this is not something we have a lot to say about yet, because we're relatively young.
It's sort of in development, and, one thing that I might say, Ken, is, it sounds like at one point you had pretended that there was a heaven or sort of told yourself different things. I come from a Jewish religious background. I'm also very familiar with Catholic mourning traditions. How do atheists deal with the grief of losing someone very close to you? If I look to my, my traditions within my own families, take God out of the picture, what are you left with? You're left with a wake. What is the purpose of a wake in Catholic tradition? It's to bring people together. It's what are you left with in Judaism when you take God out of the picture? You're left with sitting Shiva for 7 days, where people bring you food, where you mourn together, where you honor the memory of the person. You spend time together with the living and remember the person who passed away.
And the focus does tend to change, not about the person who's died, but the people who were affected, so positively affected by the person who's gone.
There is a little bit of a balancing act, though, that you want the ceremony that you put on to remember this person to accurately reflect them, because I think it would help with the grieving process. Like it's happened to me more than once when I've seen somebody who's died and they were not particularly religious, and it feels like the minister who comes in to do the thing is just trying to sell you his Jesus timeshare.
Yeah.
And I find that really offensive, because I'm there to process the loss of this person, and I want people to tell stories about who this person was, how this person affected their lives, their memories of this person, both good and bad, and this person coming in to sell a product has always really offended me, because that gets in the way of my grieving process. I'm here to think about this person and how I felt about this person, and you're making up this foreign person so you can basically sell me something, and I've always found that really offensive.
Yeah, I'm going to want to do a show about this at some point, but unfortunately not anytime too soon.
So definitely stay tuned, Ken. Keep an eye on our Facebook page and on askanatheist.tv, because we do, that's something that we do want to touch on. Let's go now to Christian from Ottawa, and Christian says, "Hey guys, I was just listening to your latest episode, and I wanted to mention a couple things you may not have thought of at first. You were reading the email from the girl who had a friend who claimed she could see spirits and ghosts and thoughts, etc. I think we did that email last week. You thought she might be delusional or schizophrenic and should get help before she gets violent, etc. And Christian writes that his first thought was maybe she has synesthesia. Perhaps she was seeing these colors but wasn't putting it together that she was seeing sounds or smells. And synesthesia, as I understand it, Mike and Sam, is that you mix your senses. What might we say about that?"
Well, I had actually, when I said just generic medical issue, the foremost thing in my mind was synesthesia, and it is considered a medical issue. It may not be an illness, but it is definitely
something atypical.
It's definitely atypical, and that is something I have considered with friends of mine, that they might just be synesthetic. And synesthesia is something that I've done a bit of research on, because that's actually the kind of psychology that really interested me back in the day. So,
and then Christian continues that he also feels compelled to point out that visual hallucinations are atypical for schizophrenics, and auditory hallucinations are far more common.
True.
Thank you for that medical correction. And then he continues, finally, it's also kind of unfair to assume that if a person has a mental illness, they need help before they get violent. Lots of people have mental illnesses who would never hurt a fly. lie. I think we do understand that, and I think a passing comment may have been made that there would be the possibility of some kind of harm coming to this person if she is continued to be viewed as having a spiritual gift as opposed to maybe some real medical issue. But I think that all of the Ask an Atheist crew would not go so far as to say that anyone with any mental illness is inherently a ticking time bomb.
Clearly not.
I don't think we did, though. I think that there are a lot of people who are really harmful, and I think that one of the things that religion does, and we've talked about this, is that not only can it mask the symptoms of a mental illness, but it can also steer them to a certain degree. That somebody who is religious and their mental illness manifests in such a way that you can actually match it up with certain beliefs, and their religion tells them to act a certain way, they're much more likely to take it a little too far, and some of these religions tell people to do nasty things.
Now, there's one more thing in this email.
Yeah, I want to toss this one to you, Sam.
Okay.
P.S. Prometheus was chained to a rock. He didn't have any cause to plan his days. What is this referring to, Sam?
I made a joke. I was like, yeah, it's very hard. Not exactly what I said, but the idea I had in mind is, yeah, Prometheus is going to have trouble going to pick up the dry cleaning if he's got his entrails hanging out. It's hard to plan your day. It's hard to go drop the kids off at daycare when your entrails are hanging out. I understand that Prometheus was chained to a rock. I also understand that Prometheus doesn't have access to dry cleaning or daycare. So
this is something that Sam and I have talked about, and unfortunately, friends in the atheist community, we're going to have... This is something that we've talked about for a while. You guys are really sometimes too pedantic.
And coming from Queen Pedant herself, myself being a high school teacher, I can agree.
I can't say I hate pedantry because I'm marrying it, but...
Thank you, sir.
I think there's a certain amount of leeway you give when something is said in humor.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, you were referencing Hamlet when you really meant King Lear. And sometimes that can get really annoying. There's a time for it.
Sure.
There's a time for sort of throwing somebody down on their ass when they're really mean and cruel about something, and they're also being really arrogant, and they're getting something factually wrong.
Yeah.
But when somebody's telling a joke, sometimes the reality in the joke is different for the sake of humor.
Yeah, and that's true. And then, there's a bunch of corrections in here, and the thing about mental illness, you're exactly correct about it, and that's not the intention I was expecting people to walk away with, or the idea that people were walking away with. But this throwaway joke I did, hard to plan your day, that doesn't really need a correction, I don't think.
I love the image that Prometheus is chained to the rock that Sisyphus is continually pushing up the hill.
He's like, whoa, whoa. Yeah. That would kind of suck. But hey, it would make it easier for the gods to punish two guys with literally one stone.
Yeah, well, it's time to get ready to head up to
Seattle. Definitely join us at the 2100 building at 2100 24th Avenue South in Seattle, Washington for our annual potluck. All free thinkers from all around are welcome to join us from 6 to 8:30 tonight.
And that's all the time we got for this issue of Ask an Atheist. My name is Sam Mulvey. Our host today was Rebecca Friedman. Mike Gillis was my co-host. Music, as usual, by Chris Coleman. Call screener was Darren Garvin. Thank you very much, Rich Lyons, for doing the editing on the interview. If you'd like us to leave us a voicemail, you can call us at 206-420-0997. Ask an Atheist is a production of NEDM Media, and we're heading up north. See you guys soon.
Season's greetings and happy holidays from KLAY, KLAY Lakewood, Tacoma.